Uh, Respected Sri Manan Kumar Misra ji, Chairman Bar Council of India, all respected members of the Bar Council of India, honorable teachers, honorable vice chancellors, students, and dear colleagues. It's an immense pleasure for me that I have been asked by the Bar Council of India to make a presentation on any topic of my choice. So today, after looking into the various aspects, I decided to speak on the topic which has been circulated to all of you on the respecting, protecting and fulfilling right to health, international and national perspective. Topic reflects clearly on three important points in part 1 and the remaining aspects in the other: the respect, protect and fulfill. Let's begin with examining these terms, what it means and what obligation it holds for the state. No doubt, these three terms have been sufficiently elaborated under the international human rights regime and regional human rights institutes. So when we look into the domestic perspective, we understand that it's a duty of the state. The state has a primary duty to protect our human rights, respect human rights, and fulfill the human rights. The realization of human rights, that is very important, and all these three aspects. So it's a duty to the state. In case when duties are not fulfilled by the state, we see relevant bodies, even and the court comes into the picture and takes the and makes necessary observation. So state has to fulfill its obligation under the constitution, under the international human rights instrument. So when we start with, let me begin with the first, that is of what it means, obligation to respect. So whenever obligation to respect, it requires states to abstain from doing anything that violates the integrity of individual or encroaches upon their freedom. So it puts, the state has an obligation not to do anything which violates the rights of the individual. Then we look into the second one, the obligation to protect. Obligation to protect obliges states to take all necessary measures to prevent others from violating individuals' integrity, dignity, and well-being or other human rights. And the last, if a typology of obligation or tripartite obligations, if we see the third one, which is obligation to assist or obligation to fulfill. Obligation to fulfill require states to take all necessary measures to progressively ensure for each person within their jurisdiction opportunity to obtain satisfaction of their needs, particularly these needs recognized in a human rights law. See, all three, respecting, protecting and fulfill. States should refrain from doing, states should restrain from doing anything which hurts or which infringes the fundamental rights of the citizens or fundamental rights of the human being or individuals. State has to protect also. No one should interfere and violate the rights of the individual. And most importantly, state has to take all appropriate steps for fulfilling the rights which are important for the survival of the human being and leading a decent life and fulfill the obligation. So we see the three typology of obligation broadly, which I started with my title in the respect, protect and fulfill of the human rights instrument. Since this is the we are discussing on the right to health, when we discuss about the right to health, so right to health typically pertains to the category of social human rights. One of the most important characteristic of social human rights is that they require states to take steps in order to progressively achieve the realization of a social good to the maximum of their valuable resources. So right to health, right to education, right to social security, right to work, that are the social and economic rights. And under social and human rights, the one important characteristics, as I said, is that requires states to take steps. State has to take steps progressively, gradually for the implementation of the human rights, which falls into the social human rights category, and right to health is in that particular category under the Indian Constitution and also under the International Human Rights Instrument. We have to understand that Constitution as well as the other instrument also segregates the human rights in two broad categories, largely in two broad categories. There are many, but two broad categories. One in the civil and political rights, and the second is economic, social and cultural rights. What we see in the constitutional perspective, what we see the part 3 of the constitution and part 4 of the constitution. So focus will be more on the both side, on the national and international. Let's go to the one important provision and then we'll shift to the international domestic law and we'll discuss about the constitutional provisions. So to understand it more clearly about the fulfilling of the human rights or duty of the state to fulfill the another important social economic rights. If we read Article 2 paragraph 1 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, what it says clearly, it says that each state party to the present covenant, means like the states which are party to the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and interestingly India is also party to this instrument and we have signed on 10th April 1979. After the end of the emergency, the Government of India decided to accept the legal obligation of the both important instruments that are International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So we are party, we have accepted the legal obligation. So the interpretation or application of the Article 2 is binding on us, in binding on the Government of India. So when we look into the Article 2 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, because our topic is more on the article on the right to health, and that is the reason I thought it's appropriate that we examine Article 2, which fixes, which puts states obligation clearly under the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So when we look into the Article 2 of the ICSR, it clearly says each state party to the present covenant undertakes to take steps. So you see, undertakes to take steps individually, undertakes to take steps individually or through international assistance and cooperation, especially economic and technical, to the maximum of its available resources with a view to achieving progressively the full realization of the rights recognized in the present covenant. If we borrow the Article 2 and put under the Indian Constitution and examine Article 37 of the Indian Constitution, if I take the Article 37 by examining, so what we have understood by looking into the Article 2 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, that states have to take steps. So what take steps mean? What take steps mean, that is also to understand. And I feel that we devote some time to understand the take steps. So what it says, the take steps in English means you start progressively, gradually you do something. But if you apply the take steps in French, it talks about take steps means in French interpretation that adopt measures. Like no, you take measures for the implementation of the rights which are mentioned into that particular treaty. Uh, and measures or steps, it should be such steps should be. So like take steps like you say indefinitely or like for a certain period. Then when we talk about the take steps, so it says clearly steps should be. What steps should be? It's like what steps a state has to take. It should be concrete. Concrete state has to take. It's a targeted steps. Concrete, targeted and deliberate. Concrete, targeted and deliberate state has to take, meeting its obligation. So take steps implies, if I look into the take steps term, so what I can say, what you'll also understand, you'll agree with me that concrete step, targeted steps or deliberate. So take steps has a obligation, instant obligation, cannot be delayed indefinitely. So state says, take steps means measures will gradually adopt after number of years. That is not the intention of the drafters of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. It just intended to give some time to the states for that. Then second important point which we have, it has been also realized clearly that it may not be possible for the state to implement the rights which are mentioned under the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So what it clearly states, you take steps individually and through international assistance and cooperation, So it's not individual steps. So state can also join, it's a collaboration. For the implementation of economic, social and cultural rights, collaboration is also important. State can seek assistance. You can't expect a country in Africa or Asia to realize these rights the way European countries have implemented, and European countries have successfully implemented these rights in their jurisdiction on the economic, social and cultural rights. Because of their economic strength, that is not available in a large number of countries in Europe, in Africa, in Asia. So we see there is a gap, and that is the reason even under the Article 2, it clearly says states can take steps with collaboration, with international assistance, maximum of its available resources. So it doesn't put like, whatever resources, maximum available resources. So when we see that maximum available resources, what it means, it applies that resources it has through the international assistance and also on own. So whatever the resources you have in the realization of the rights which has been recognized under the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. And then it says progressive realization, gradual realization under the International Covenant on Economic. So we understood that the how it has been structured, how it has been worded under the International Covenant and Civil and under International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights related to states' obligation. If I borrow the Article 2 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights and applies with the Article 37 of the Indian Constitution, so what we see that Article 37 of the Indian Constitution, it says the provisions contained in this part shall not be enforceable by any court, but the principles therein laid down are nevertheless fundamental in the governance of the country, and it shall be the duty of the state to apply this principle in making laws. There are three important ingredients under the Article 37 of the Constitution. The first, it says, it's a non-justiciable. No one should go to the court. Clearly it states in the very shall not be enforceable by any court. So it has made a distinction. Second, that is equally important point, which says it's a fundamental in governance of the country. And third part, which says clearly that it shall be the duty of the state. It shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws. So it shall be the duty. So to apply to, like, what, right to work, right to health, right to education. So government should, or state should make laws. But individual cannot approach the court. So you see that there is a distinction. There is a clear-cut distinction or barrier has been created between the Part 3 of the Constitution and Part 4 of the Constitution. Interestingly, the courts in India, High Court and Supreme Court of India, has interpreted and applied Part 3 and Part 4 of the Constitution more in a different manner. Part 3 of the Constitution and Part 4, and what we see, the court over the years have evolved. Though it was not in the beginning, over the years it has established that there is a relationship, there is a close relationship between Part 3 of the Constitution and Part 4 of the Indian Constitution. There is a clear cut, like there is a relationship between the Part 3 of the Constitution and Part 4 of the. So court speaks about the harmonious construction, integrated approach, and interdependence of the Part 3 and Part 4 of the Constitution. It talks about the so there is a strong relationship which was not there in the beginning. In the interpretation of the court. But today, court sees all the rights which are the Part 4 of the Part 4 of the Constitution are related under the Article 21 of the Constitution and other rights of the Constitution. So we can't see in isolation both Part 3 and Part 4. That is the very good development, and that is why we see that fulfilling part, that the duty of the state to fulfill has been pushed by the courts on many occasions. So court has played a very significant role. Court has played very important role in pushing the Part 4 and making it like government must take appropriate initiative for the implementation of these rights in time to time. And we have cases on right to food security, we have on the right to clean environment, right to health, and other things are there. Other parts are also covered under the Constitution, which we'll discuss. Now come to the in the constitutional part, which we will try to national perspective. That is the idea I had in that particular. So we have application of Article 2 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, along with the Article 37 of the Constitution. It also speaks about in same language. It says, it's a fundamental in the governance of the country. States shall take initiative to adopt the law in realization of the rights. The concern regarding making rights which are the Part 4 of the Constitution were also discussed and debated in the time of the Constituent Assembly in the drafting of the Constitution, and many members have raised concern. They saw that Part 4 is equally important right. In fact, many members have expressed that directive, instead of the word directive should be substituted by the fundamental. So directive principle, so fundamental principle of the state policy. So many members have agreed, but for ultimately it has been retained, and now we have directive principles of state policy under the Indian Constitution. Uh, so when we look into the next part, which I thought we'll discuss about the how court has over the years looked into the realization of this right into the domestic perspective. So when we look into the Indian Constitution, as I have discussed in length about the Article 37, Article 2 of the Constitution, uh, courts have recognized the courts have recognized that it is the primary duty of the government to provide, if we discuss in the case of the in the sense of the right to health, provide medical facilities for the people to the extent of the finances of the state permit. So some way, but that concept is no longer. So state has a primary duty. There is no doubt about that. So the state has a primary duty to fulfill the right to health, provide the medical facilities to persons who are injured or sick or something in that particular context. Let a close reading of the Constitution, which says the right to a healthy life is recognized as an integral part of the right to life. So that debate that part 3 is separate and part 4 is separate is no longer relevant. When we see the court has duly recognized the right to healthy life is recognized as an integral part of the right to life under the Indian Constitution. The Constitution directs the state to improve the public health, which is the Constitution directs the state to improve the public health under the Article 47 of the Constitution. So that is under Article, and endeavor to protect and improve the other environment and other aspects. So when we see this is a duty of the state to improve public health facilities, which is under the Article 47 of the Constitution. There are other Article 39E, 39F, and now our right to health has been linked with the Article 21 of the Constitution that is there. But when you examine and you try to see where right to health is mentioned under the Constitution, you look into the Article 47, which is very clearly stated the duty of the state to provide the to take care of the public health. 39E, 39F, and others provisions are also, and number of cases Supreme Court has while dealing with the environment matters also recognized how the environment, degradation of the environment pollution also affects the health of the people. So court, while answering the adjudicating matter related with the environment, it also looks into right to health aspect. So environmental jurisprudence also very important in the right to health. When we go into the Constitution and we see Schedule 7, and as you know that Schedule 7 has 3 lists: union list, state list, and concurrent list. Right to health or health, public health, is primarily under the domain of the state. Primarily under the domain of the state, right to health. When you look into the entry 6, so state list, entry 6, which talks about public health care, sanitation, hospitals, and dispensaries. So list 2 of the 7th schedule under entry 6, it says that the state has to take care of the public health care, sanitation, hospitals, and dispensaries. We have other list, that is the concurrent list, list 3. In in third list, list 3 we see under the entry 29. Under the entry 29, prevention of the extension from one state to another of infectious or contagious diseases or or like other things. So we see that 29 is also relevant. When we talk about the right to health, generally we talk about the entry 6 of the list 2 and entry 3 of the list, entry 29 of the list 3. But under the constitution, we can examine, we can see that is a bottom up approach, particularly when we talk about the health. Article 243G, which gives power to the panchayat, and Article 243W, which gives power and functions of the municipalities. So when we look into the Schedule 11 of the Constitution, which we hardly discuss, when we look into the Schedule 11 and Schedule 12, Schedule 11, the panchayat power 243G, there under entry 23 also talks about the panchayat has a duty for the public health. Similarly, under the Schedule 12, also under the entry 6 of the Schedule 12, it also talks about the public health. So we see bottom up approach, we see in all level public health has been duly recognized. So in the ground, panchayat, municipalities, state and the government of India or Union of India all have certain obligations to fulfill public health system. If all systems work on a proper manner, we would have not faced the situation what we witnessed in the last 6 months, particularly starting from the April. We had a problem, and that is in that particular context what we are seeing or discussing today. The right to health has become a very important concern, important issue, both domestically or internationally. No doubt about that. And I am sure that days to come, right to health will be an important subject, and maybe I urge also the Honorable Chairman and other members that Bar Council can also think about adding a subject on the public health law. Public health law will become a very important subject in days to come. Though it's a part of the Constitution, so many of you might have read, you have understood what right to health and how it has to be implemented under the constitutional perspective. But as a subject, there is a scope and there is an opportunity to expand and think about the subject on the public health law. So when we look into now we have understood that it has been looked at a number of places, Schedule 10, Schedule 11, Schedule 7, in list 2, list 3. So all the places we have found that health is mentioned. Most important development which I see when we talk about the jurisprudence, we go to the landmark judgment or number of important cases decided by the High Court and decided by the Supreme Court of India. In this context, I feel it is important to highlight what has been said and what has been recognized by the Honorable Justice Krishna Iyer long time back in the case of Ratlam Municipality versus Bardhi-Chand and other. In the Ratlam Municipality versus Bardhi-Chand case in long time back, Krishna Iyer in 1980, what he said, the importance of the right to health. In 1980, the court on its own part never ever failed. Court always given due recognition to the rights which are mentioned under the Part 4 of the Indian Constitution. Though while dealing in this case, Ratlam Municipality versus Bardhi-Chand case, the Honorable Justice Krishna Iyer observed, the state will realize that Article 47 makes it a paramount principle. Article 47 makes it a paramount principle of governance that steps are taken for the improvement of public health as amongst its primary duties. So what, like, if in 1980 he has highlighted, Honorable Justice Krishna Iyer highlighted that state will realize that Article 47 makes it a paramount principle of governance that steps are taken for the improvement of public health as among its primary duties. So we can start the journey. The another important case which I will have some to discuss is the case which was decided in 1987 in Vincent versus Union of India. Vincent versus Union of India, 1987, 2 SCC 105. In this case, the concern was expressed with the, like, a state has a legal obligation to prohibit the sale and use of banned drugs, and the Supreme Court observed in this case, in Vincent case, a healthy body is the very foundation, a healthy body is the very foundation for all human activities. It is therefore the obligation of the state to ensure the creation and the sustaining of conditions for the good health. We see another important case, Parmanand Katara versus Union of India, which was decided in 1994, SCC 286. Parmanand Katara versus Union of India. The Indian Supreme Court, in this case, saved the right to health as a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court saved the right to health as a fundamental right under the Article 21 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court dwelled upon the urgent need to lay down certain norms to consider right to health as a primary and important one. Primary and important one. Then subsequently we can also see the another landmark case is the Consumer Education and Research State and Research Center, Consumer Education and Research Center versus Union of India, which was decided in 1995, 3 SCC. The Supreme Court, for the first time, explicitly held that the right to health as an integral fact of meaningful right to life. Reading Article 21 with the relevant directive principles guaranteed in Articles 39E, 41, 43, the Supreme Court held that right to health and medical care is a fundamental right. Right to health and medical care is a fundamental human right, and it makes the life of the workman, so it's a private basically, workman, meaningful and purposeful with the dignity of the person. So what we see, series of cases, with some of the cases which I have highlighted, the attempt of the court, the intention of the court to strengthen the right to life and recognized as a part of the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. It's not that all of a sudden we started noticing the development. Some recent cases which we'll discuss little bit later. When we discuss right to health, no discussion is complete without highlighting the Paschim Bang Khet Mazdoor case. So that is also very important case, and if by chance if you work or research or write, what you will find in any reading, any writing, the right to health, particularly this case is cited everywhere. This case is cited worldwide. This case is cited. The case I am talking about is a Paschim Bang Khet Mazdoor versus State of West Bengal. Paschim Bang Khet Mazdoor versus State of West Bengal. It was decided in 1996, and the case is very important. It answers lot of queries which we have. It answers lot of queries which we have. We are not sure what kind of obligation the state has, whether it's a constitutional obligation, whether medical, what are the obligation of the medical officers, what are the primary duties of the medical health center. All those questions are answered effectively when we look into and examine the Paschim Bang Khet Mazdoor. In this case, the certain points which are very important and relevant to understand right to health, the content of right to health, the relevance of right to health. So when we look into the court held in this case that government hospitals run by the state, and the medical officers employed therein, the government hospitals run by the state and the medical officers employed therein are duty bound to extend medical assistance for preserving human life. If we look into the first part, so there is an obligation, there is a duty, clearly stated duty on the government hospitals and medical officers to extend medical assistance for preserving human life. It's a duty, the fundamental duty they have. Duty to assist a person who needs some kind of urgent medical assistance and medical help. It says, it goes further. If medical officer fails, so failure on the part of a government hospital, to provide timely medical assistance to a person in need, of such treatment, results in violation of the right to life guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. So court says clearly, if medical hospitals turn down a patient, which happened in this particular case, where an injured person was turned down by the many hospitals, if returning, if not admitting a medical emergency cases, that is also violating the rights of the injured person. By whom? By the medical professionals, medical officers, and by the hospital. When we talk about the healthcare facilities or medical healthcare facilities, we have to understand it may not be possible for the state to provide uniform medical facilities throughout the country. The country of 140 million people will have a different type of the medical facilities. So our focus, or government's focus should be, what is important? There will be discrimination in the hospital facilities, but focus of the state should be on the availability of the medical center. So primary health care center. So that is possible in even these rural or small villages. Primary health care center, where people medical emergency can be attended. So primary medical health center is an important, it's a common which needs of which will take care of the needs of everyone, at least for the emergency situation, and later on people can be referred to a bigger hospital in the city and then also in the state capital or finally to Delhi. So the chain is there. So we have to build a chain starting with the primary healthcare facilities, which is important. So medical emergency can be. So what we see, so when we question and when we examine about the most important point, when we discuss about the human rights, we find availability. So today when we look into the availability, what we see, the public health centers, and they are not in the sufficient number. They are not in the sufficient number. So availability is very important. So making, so now, like since this particular crisis has come, and we believe that days to come things will improve, things will change on the ground level. More hospitals will come, no doubt about that, and state government will take it very seriously on that. So availability has to be increased. Availability of functioning public health care. So availability, what we have to focus in days to come, or it already started, functioning public health centers and healthcare facilities in sufficient quantity by each state. So what the third point in the Paschim Bank Khet Mazdoor says, primary health care center be equipped to deal with medical emergencies. So if I co-link with the availability, so these primary health care center or functioning public health center, public health center be equipped to deal with medical emergencies. If that is taken care, like in large number of cases in month of April, where people have got like coronavirus, when it was in the peak, it was on the peak. It was like people were desperately looking for the oxygen. Oxygen, timely availability of oxygen could have saved large number of people. And now later on, people started looking for oxygen on themselves here and there, and also started using at home. So sufficient number, sufficient oxygen could have saved large number of people. A number of people would have not died in the cities or even in the village. And that has alarmed all of us, including court. Court also took note of the Delhi High Court, Supreme Court also in the suo motu, they took note of, and that we'll discuss a little bit later. Even in the Allahabad High Court. So various high courts have took note of the ground realities and intervened. It's state has to look into that. But court has realized is sufficient support is not coming, sufficient initiative, there is lack of initiative, or sufficient efforts were not made for whatever reasons, and court is intervened, and things have, of course, after the intervention of the court, things have changed. And to conclude the case which we started, Paschim Bank Khet Mazdoor, what we see, it held, which is very important, it has also been held in this judgment, the lack of financial resources, cannot be a reason, cannot be a reason for the state to shy away from its constitutional obligation. So when we look into, so if I conclude the Paschim Bank Khet Mazdoor, because I have correlated number of things, there are 3-4 important points which we get. The first is a duty of the medical hospitals and government office medical officers to attend the medical emergency, to preserve the human life, attend the medical emergency cases. They should not turn, if they fail. So what they, in case of failure on the part of the government hospital to provide timely medical treatment to a person in need of such treatment, results in the violation of the right to life guaranteed under the Constitution. Quote also in this case, which I have just mentioned, that the primary health care centers be equipped to deal with medical emergencies. So we have to understand, we have to very much clear that availability, there will be a discrimination, there will be a distinction between the healthcare facilities. So in the rural there will be different kind of but even one thing which is common in all, the primary health care, medical emergency has to be attended by the, primary health care shall be equipped or should be equipped with the minimum facilities, so the like a medical emergency can be attended. The last point which is also discussed in the case, which is equally important, when if a state says no, we don't have sufficient resources, and that is the reason will not be able to imply, and they say article 37 also helps us. Article 37 helped you for 10 years, not for the 70 years, not for the 75 years. So after independence you had an opportunity, but not today. Progressive realization, we can't wait indefinitely. Now the time has come that it has to be seriously take note of all these rights, not only right to health under the part 4 of the Constitution. Sufficient time has been taken. Sufficient resources is available. So education, health, social security, right to adequate standard of living, all are equally important. So I consider part 4 very important in that sense. If you ask a person, hungry person, or a starving person, he or she will always talk about the food on that particular time. He will not talk about the freedom of thought and conscience and other rights, or freedom of speech and expression. He will focus. So a large number of people is still struggling. So when we talk about the human rights in today's context, we see that for academic discourse, it's very good, but ground reality is a real challenge before all authorities, before everyone, before all institutions. So ground problem is the ground issues needs to be addressed, and also authorities have to look into the bottom up approach. It's not the from the top is a trickling down. It has to follow the bottom up approach. We have to address the need of the poor people, like women, children, weaker sections of the society, vulnerable sections of the society. These are the very important sections. Even the policies are not adequately addressing their concern, or for whatever reasons, still there is a gap. There is a huge gap which will exist in this society. So, just to conclude the Paschim Bang Khet Mazdoor, what we can say, there is no justification. There is no justification on the part of the state saying that they don't have money, and that is the reason we will not be able to create sufficient number of the hospitals which will take care of the need of the poor people. So there is no justification which has been clearly mentioned under the Paschim Bang Khet Mazdoor case. We have another important case that is related with, there are a number of cases which may not be necessary to discuss, but the thrust which we have understood, there is another important, Rakesh Chandra Narayan versus State of Bihar. Rakesh Chandra Narayan versus State of Bihar, AIR 1989 SC 348. In that case also, court held, you remember, in that case, the court held in a welfare state, it is the obligation of the state, it is the obligation of the state to provide medical attention to every citizen. The case which was decided in 1989 makes it quite clear that in a welfare state, it is the obligation of the state to provide medical attention to every citizen. The state has to realize its obligations. The state has to realize its obligation, and the government of the day has got to perform its duties by running the hospital in a perfect standard and serving the patients in an appropriate way. This case is equally important. Let me repeat again what it has said in this case. In a welfare state, so we are a welfare state, it is the obligation of the state to provide medical attention to every citizen, So, accessibility, what I say, accessibility is very important. Everybody, so it should be based on the principle of non-discrimination, not on the religious line, not on the race line, not on the gender line. It has to be made available to everyone in the accessibility. The state has to realize its obligation, and the government of the day, whosoever is in the power, whosoever is in the position, has got to perform the duties, by running the hospital in a perfect standard. So government hospital, we, many people have a reservation. So government hospital in perfect standard and serving the patients in an appropriate way, So Rakesh Chandra Narayan case is also very important along with the other case, which focuses on putting on the duties, obligation on the state. What are the obligation state has on that particular, and it says it should be accessible to everyone. It should be the state has create the medical facilities accessible to the everyone. And there I take you to the another important point, what I have already discussed about the availability. The another important point, which is accessibility. Accessibility is equally important. Accessibility, so health facilities, goods and services, have to be accessible to everyone. Without discrimination within the jurisdiction. So within the country. So accessibility is very important. Everybody can go, rich, poor, and others. Everybody can go and have accessibility in there. So when we takes into the accessibility, we have to remember accessibility has 4 important components. Accessibility has 4 overlapping dimensions. When we discuss about accessibility, so we find 4 overlapping dimensions. What are the 4 overlapping dimensions which needs to be little bit elaborated? The first is non-discrimination. So we have focused sufficiently on the principle of non-discrimination. I have highlighted, I have discussed with you, dear students, that non-discrimination. So accessibility means government hospital, everybody can go, whether it's a government or private, accessibility has to be based on the non-discrimination principle. The second, which is equally important, which takes us the role of panchayat, role of municipalities and state government. So in all levels, so you see the schedule 11, schedule 12 also talks about the public health. There is the functioning of the panchayat. Panchayat has to work for the creation of the public health center. That public health, what we have seen on the television, how these public health centers function. They become cowshed in many, what we have witnessed. We don't want to make comment, but we have seen on the television that public health centers in the villages they turned out or turned into the cowshed and other things. That is the very sad state of affairs. We need to address those things. And public health center, what I have said in availability, it has to be functional public health system. It should not be only as a building with human being, doctors, medical equipment. So equipment is also there. What has been be equipped with the facilities. If you look into the Paschim Bandh Khet Mazdoor, where court has said, be equipped with the medical facilities to take care of the medical emergencies. So when we look into the accessibility, I said it has 4 overlapping dimensions. The first overlapping dimensions, what I have focused and you have also understood, is the principle of non-discrimination. When we look into the non-discrimination is the important part of there. Then Accessibility means hospital should be within reach. Physical accessibility. You don't need to travel 100 kilometers for the accessibility and say you have a sufficient number of the health center. If any government says we have sufficient number of health facilities, public health centers, and people have to travel 100 kilometers, that cannot be considered as accessibility. So what means physical accessibility? That you can travel 10 to 15 kilometers and then you can access the physical accessibility. So physical accessibility is important. When we talk about the health, physical accessibility means within safe physical distance. Most important in the accessibility part, which takes care of the 136 million people of India. Economic accessibility, or what you call affordable treatment, affordability, what we suggest. So it's like, medical facilities should be affordable. Everyone can think, everyone can pay a minimum. It's not charged higher. So like the moment we look into the private hospital, we pray to God that we should not go to these hospitals. So economic availability is equally important, and what health facilities, goods and services must be affordable for all. It should be affordable for all, so everybody can go to the medical facility. So economic accessibility is also important, very important. And the last, information accessibility. So we have a right to know what progress government has made, regarding the development of the vaccine or medicine, affordable treatment. So these information accessibility is also important. Accessibility includes the right to seek, receive and impart information and ideas concerning health issues. But remember, you don't have a right to seek the private information of a individual who is admitted in the hospital. We can't seek what kind of disease he has or something, personal information of the patient. But we have a right related to the policies to understand is there. If I conclude here, there are 3-4 important aspects which state has to take care, or government of India has to take care about: the availability, accessibility, adaptability and quality of the medical health treatment. If that is taken care, lot of things can be answered effectively. So availability is very important. Accessibility also very important, which we have discussed in a detailed manner. Now we come to the some other despite all these cases, despite the landmark judgments of the Supreme Court of India, what we have seen or what we have witnessed, that court was compelled on 2-3 occasions, and particularly not only in today but also in time of the 2020. If you remember, in the one particular case which has taken by the Supreme Court on the 12th June 2020. So this is the first phase. I am talking about the first phase. We will just discuss some of the cases in the second phases also, which Supreme Court of India has taken. If we discuss about the first phase, in the first phase, the Supreme Court has taken suo motu. The case is the proper treatment of COVID-19 patients and dignified handling of dead bodies in the hospital. You remember, this was the first case which took Supreme Court after COVID, spread of the coronavirus, or spread of the COVID-19. So court has realized, and this case is court has taken suo motu on the basis of the news which appeared in the television, India TV channel. It has telecasted, and court took suo motu, and subsequently in the number of directions have been used. This was on 12th June 2020. This is related, and court has observed. That is very important aspect. So you can imagine the health facilities which exist in Delhi, that was also questioned. So medical facilities has to be what Rakesh Narayan case had says, कि quality medical facility. So court has mentioned, in this case, court was disturbed. Pathetic conditions in the LNGP hospital, Lok Narayan Jayaprakash Hospital, pathetic conditions. And also, court also realized, even in the 2020, of course the intensity was much higher in 2021, but the problem was same on the 2020 also. Patients were even in 2020 running from pillars to post to get admission in the hospital in the 2020. So what we see, the court also, despite this series of judgments, decided to take note of, and because of the intervention, timely intervention on both occasions, on the first coronavirus wave and second coronavirus wave, because of the intervention of the court, we see lot of changes, lot of steps were taken by the government, both by the central government and the state government. So court also played the same role. Court did not look into the finding fault. Court also tried to see this, the main objective of the, will examine the cases, we see the main objective of the court to save the human life. And even court had to take some hard steps. Court did not hesitate. And because of the intervention, because court will not see, when court realizes, so constitution empowers the court. Lack of initiative or slow response by the government, if it infringes the rights of the individuals, if it infringes the part 3 of the constitution and part 4 of the constitution, court intervenes, whether matter falls in the policy or even in otherwise. So court will not be a mere spectator to seek policy matters, so let the government decide. If government fails, then who will save us? It court which comes to rescue us and takes care of our concern. Let me 2-3 cases also discuss, and then we conclude in short. There is another important case which I suggest all of you, but this case is not decided by the Supreme Court of India. This case was decided by the Delhi High Court. Delhi High Court, in the and popularly known as, the case was known as the orphan drugs case. The orphan drugs case, Mohammed Ahmed versus Union of India. It's a very landmark case, but unfortunately it has not been highlighted so much, but some of the writings I have noticed, and then I say. So the orphan drugs case is a very important case, where in this case you will see, in this case if you read, it's not very lengthy judgment, single bench judgment. If you read that particular case, you will find out the court has used international instruments. Court has used other instruments also, and various jurisdiction, various cases decided by the other jurisdiction. Court discuss. So this case, a lot of things we find which we have discussed are part of the integral part of this case, the orphans drug case, or popularly known as the orphan drugs case, or Mohammed Ahmed versus Union of India. In this case, the court, Delhi High Court, cited relevant international law principles. That's the reason I say, it's not only Article 21 and other article of the Constitution. It looks into the various provisions of the relevant provisions of the international law, and including, which I have not come across in very few cases, including the General Comment number 14, General Comment number 14 of the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights under the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So court looked into that particular part in under this. So it discusses about the international principles and discussed about General Comment, and General Comment, as I said already, issued by United Nations on economic, or by the Economic, Social and Cultural Rights Convention, and support its conclusion. So court used to support its conclusion and says that every person in India has a fundamental right So Delhi High Court. Every person in India has a fundamental right to quality health care, that is affordable, accessible, and compassionate. So what court has said, just see that every person in India has a fundamental right to quality health. We have discussed availability, accessibility, adaptability, and quality also we have just highlighted. Fundamental, so in this case, that every person in India has a fundamental right to quality health care that is affordable. So we have accessibility, economic, affordable, accessible, and compassionate. So when you go, you are treated nicely in the hospital, people can take care of you, discuss about you there. Uh, so court has broke new ground. It's emphatic holding. So what court brought a new ground in this case by holding the core obligations, by holding the core obligation under the right to health. One is non-derogable, core obligation. So it has nobody thought about that. So court has said it's a core obligation. It's a non-derogable, non-negotiable. Right to health is very fundamental and it has to be respected all the time. So right to health is a core. So court in this case, Delhi High Court, it has discussed and said कि non-negotiable and non-derogable rights. In so holding, Delhi High Court explicitly endorsed the minimum core standard by giving us to observe that while the minimum core is not easy to define, it includes at least minimum decencies of life consistent with human dignity. So this case is very important. If you have time, you read Muhammad Ahmad versus Union of India, which I came to know from the other, some other source. Let me take you to the very important another suo motu case which Supreme Court has taken on that particular the recent time on the in the April on the April 22nd April. On the 22nd April, the three judge bench Honorable Justice Chandrachud, Honorable Justice Nageshwar Rao, Honorable Justice Ravindra Bhatt ji. All three, they court took a case. These three bench and the judgment is also is available. Distribution of essential supplies and services during pandemic. So in April, court what government is doing. Court jumped. Court took opportunity. Court took the time is alarming. Situation is alarming. Court has to intervene. There is no way court has attacked on the separation of powers. Court has done its duty very carefully. If somebody says policy matters, court should not interfere. So management will be the executive. Court recognizes that. It doesn't court is not in a mood to jump and grab all these opportunities. Court, when it's essential, when the existence of human being is in question, on such situation, court never hesitates and jump and take that opportunity. So the same thing on the 22nd April, court realized in the suo motu it took distribution of essential supplies and services during pandemic. And series of hearing took place and finally court passed a detailed order on number of issues on 30th April. A detailed order was passed on the 30th April 2021. A detailed order was passed, and those order you see, it's not only vaccination policy. The detailed order was passed on the vaccination policy, supply of essential drugs, supply of medical oxygen, medical infrastructure, augmentation of healthcare workforce. and issues of freedom of speech and expression during the COVID pandemic. So we should not be silenced. If you feel agitated, you feel disturbed, you have a right to express. We can be locked down. So lockdown is fine. But it is not that you can't speak. You have freedom, you can write, you can discuss in the various platforms. So court primarily on the 30th April issued a detailed order. On 22nd it took suo motu after a couple of hearings, and finally on 30th April it issued a detailed order, not only on the an oxygen issue. So on 30th April oxygen was a major or admission in the hospital was the major issue. Our honorable judges, they took note of it and addressed number of important issues, and that is the vaccination policy, supply of essential drugs, supply of medical oxygen, medical infrastructure, augmentation of healthcare workforce, and issues freedom of speech and expression during the COVID pandemic. Court also, so this question was there whether court has a power or adjudication. This was raised by the Solicitor General in this particular case about the jurisdictional issue, separation of power. Court cited I just saw that in the footnote in the one particular book, how much time, how much honorable judges devote and look into the various aspects. So there is a book also which we should also try to read. So judgments are not merely judgment. Judgment is also research judgment. It serves our purpose also. So I noted that in the judgment, the name of this Sandra Friedman book, Adjudication as Accountability. The title of the Adjudication as Accountability, a deliberative approach. A deliberative approach is a book named Accountability in the Contemporary Constitution, published by the Oxford University Press. So you see that court also adjudication is accountability, adjudication as accountability, a deliberative approach. So a deliberative approach was followed in this particular there. And same time there another case was there in the Union of India versus Rakesh Malhotra, where the case constituted a national task force. A national task force, if you remember, a national task force was constituted and to assessing and making the recommendation. So court has taken complete, I'll not say complete, but court has taken that responsibility and constituted a national, under the Supreme Court monitoring national task force to what to do? Assessing and making a recommendation for the need of oxygen, availability and distribution of medical oxygen, methodology for allocation of medical and other aspects. So what we see that parallelly the one court looked into the vaccination on various aspects, also the other looked into the constituted a national task force. And when this the case on the month of May, in the first case distribution of essential supplies and services, the court focused in the because in the end of May the things have changed little bit and graph has started declining. COVID-19 cases started coming down day by day. So court focused subsequently in the first case with the distribution of the vaccine. That case, court realized in our time issues of vaccination is crucial. So globally it has been realized. Now vaccination is very important. Vaccination is very fundamental. So vaccination has to, so everyone has to be vaccinated. And it's because of the, so court focused on the vaccination policies, how government is going. So court requested, and we see because of the court intervention, vaccination has to be as we discussed, as we have highlighted for in our discussion, that affordable. So vaccination is also has to be made freely, has to be given to the state and union territories freely, so they can administer to their people. So finally, the government has also decided the 75% of the vaccination will be provided by the central government to the state and union territories. However, To give the incentive, that is the logic which has been applied, to give to the incentive to the manufacturer of the vaccine, the private hospital can also procure on monthly basis 25% of the vaccine. I see that is fine. So 75% freely and 25% is there. But the challenge getting of vaccine, what government also contemplate, by end of December everyone will be vaccinated. We hope that it comes true, and it like it comes true, and then everybody gets vaccinated by the uh, end of this year. With this, we conclude. We have discussed various aspects on the related with the national and international perspective, related with the right to health in today's talk. Uh, no doubt, in the two recent cases which also raises concern of the separation of power. That separation of power is a part of the basic structure of the constitution. Policy making to be in the sole domain of the executive continues to be the sole domain of the there. However, our constitution does not envisage courts to be silent spectators when constitutional rights of citizens are infringed by executive policies. Judicial review and soliciting constitutions. So, so if judicial, if so, court will not remain silent. What is say, court has an also an obligation when constitutional rights of the citizens are infringed by any reasons, by executive policies or something, court will definitely come. So what we have seen in the entire journey, in the both national and international perspective, we have seen also the how part 3 and part 4 have been closely linked by the court, by the Supreme Court of India, and integrated approaches. Various cases we have seen that how right to health has been linked with the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, and time to time court has addressed right to health starting from the 1980, it may be or before earlier also, but 1980 I started with the Ratlam municipality case, and then 2021, April 2021, with the matters are still continuing. So we have seen a long journey, constitutional journey, when right to health, which is one of the social human rights, which where it gives a state to take steps. So we hope that the entire journey of the last 2 years, so right to health always was the last 2 years, has opened up number of areas to examine by the state, by the union government, by the state government, to see that how to protect the life or how to provide the health facilities, which is based on the four important fundamental principles on the availability, accessibility, adaptability, and quality, that is also there. And Delhi High Court judgment which shows about the core human rights, which has recognized in the core human rights. With this, I would like to thank Honorable Chairman Sri Manan Kumar Mishra Ji, Bar Council of India, and all honorable members of the Bar Council of India for asking me to deliver a talk on a very important theme on the respecting, protecting, and fulfilling the rights to health, international and national perspective. I chose this topic for various reasons, as a, which has been highlighted in my presentation related with the right to health. In our time, we discussed both international perspective and domestic perspective. The focus was more on the uh, equal focus was given to the both aspects international, and it helped us to understand what international instruments are also speaking. The same thing is mentioned under the part 4 of the Indian Constitution. So the journey started from the 1950 onwards, after Constitution came into force. Though it was adopted on 26 November 1949, it entered into force 26 January 1950 onwards till today. A long journey, and I think this sufficient number of years have passed. The time has come to ensure, the state has to ensure the full realization of the rights which are mentioned under the part 4 of the Constitution. We should not see part 3 and part 4 as a separate. Both are same. So human rights cannot be bracketed. Human rights cannot be segregated. Human rights are interdependent, indivisible, interrelated, and one. So that is the approach, and we are very fortunate that we have a judiciary which takes care, which interprets the human rights as a one. It doesn't see human rights in the two different baskets or three different baskets. It feels human rights is one, and that is the reason lot of concerns have been taken care by the our Honorable Supreme Court of India and also High Courts of India. With this, once again, thank you very much, Sriman Kuan Desaji, Chairman Bar Council of India, and all the members for giving me this opportunity, and and all the others for their time and an opportunity to discuss and understand this particular very important topic which we have discussed today. Thank you very much. Thank you.